So, in breaking news, another desperate federal judge has ruled against President Trump. This time, they're blocking the president from banning asylum claims for migrants who are here in America. Now, this comes as the Supreme Court has already ruled that the judicial branch cannot exceed its authority when issuing nationwide injunctions. So, we're going to get into this, show you what both sides are saying, and then give you the bottom line.
Well, on President Trump's very first day in office, he signed an executive order which declared an invasion at the southern border and also banned asylum for anybody who crossed the border illegally. But now a federal judge is saying that Trump exceeded his authority with that order, and he plans to block it. Federal Judge Randolph Moss, an Obama appointee, issued his ruling this afternoon. It will have nationwide implications, and it says that Trump must follow the Immigration and Nationality Act, or INA, and that he doesn't have universal authority to ban asylum. Judge Moss recognized the enormous challenges the executive branch has in securing the border, but concluded, quote, "The INA, by its terms, provides the sole and exclusive means for removing people already present in the country."
Okay, so let's make sure we understand right up front what's going on here. According to this federal judge, President Trump has exceeded his authority by stopping an invasion at the southern border that was started because of the prior president who committed malpractice on the job. Do I have that correctly? And in fact, I don't believe it's President Trump who has exceeded his authority. It's this federal judge who's exceeded his authority, according to the Supreme Court. Now, they did mention there's no actual injunction here, and the federal judge is just saying, hey, President Trump is not following the law here. He exceeded his authority. I will tell you right now, this is a complete joke. There's no way you're going to make President Trump undo everything that he's already accomplished because of what this particular federal judge had to say. Now, before I say anything else, let's hear more on this. Take a listen.
Now, the ACLU, which sued to block Trump's executive order, is taking a victory lap. They're saying, quote, "This is a hugely important decision. Not only will it save the lives of families fleeing grave danger, it reaffirms that the president cannot ignore the laws Congress has passed and the most basic premise of our country's separation of powers." But White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller is blasting the ruling. He wrote on X, quote, "To try to circumvent the Supreme Court ruling on nationwide injunctions, a Marxist judge has declared that all potential future illegal aliens on foreign soil, a large portion of planet Earth, are part of a protected global class entitled to admission into the United States," end quote.
Okay, so let's dive a little deeper into this story, go over some facts. I'm going to bring up the law, but first we're going to go through ground news. If you want to follow along, just go to ground.news/Devori. If you're an avid listener of our show, you know why we use this tool, because it shows us the full picture and it helps us think for ourselves, which is exactly what I want for you and what's needed in this country. Now, to give you an example of how bad it is, especially on the left, media outlets are already capitalizing on this ruling by trying to undermine the president. Here is an example of that. Judge Moss bars Orange wannabe from expelling immigrants. Yes, this is a headline. This is an outlet, and they are pushing this story. And what's interesting, it sounds like it's more about President Trump and how much they hate him versus what the facts really are. Now, let's listen to Todd Lyons really quickly here and his reaction to the ruling.
So I have a feeling that this judge won't be the last to make this kind of ruling as the Trump administration and as you guys try to carry out the mass deportation agenda that Americans voted for in November. So when something like this happens, despite the Supreme Court taking your side last week, how do you manage still carrying out the agenda when clearly it's trying to be thwarted through these activist judges thinking that they get to stop all of these rulings?
Yeah, and that's what we do. We just go ahead and we keep doing the mission. We focus on those worst of the worst. I think the prime example is what, Los Angeles? We didn't let the protesters stop us. We didn't let Mayor Bass stop us. We're continuing that mission daily right now. And we're still going to focus on all these sanctuary jurisdictions and all of these places where these left activist judges are trying to rule and shut down ICE, but we're not going to walk away. This is what the president wanted. This is what the American people wanted. And ICE is going to make America safe again.
And here is the rest of that comparison from an outlet that leans right. See the title? Judge rules Trump admin can't block asylum claims for migrants who cross southern border. No hyperbole, just reporting what the facts are. And let me just address something really quickly here. In regards to what President Trump is allowed to do or what he's not allowed to do, ultimately it's going to be the Supreme Court. We just learned that with universal injunctions. However, that does not stop the media from pushing misinformation or what I would call it, propaganda, which brings us to the purpose of ground news and why I recommend you should be using this on the daily. If you get confused about a particular story or our show hasn't covered it and given you the clarity, you can use a tool like this to get the full picture and help you make up your own mind. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you can download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devori, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
So here's what the message no one gets across. You can claim asylum in this country. If you go to the last 10 years of immigration court data, nearly 9 out of 10 people who claim asylum get an order of removal because they simply don't qualify for asylum. They're not escaping fear and persecution from the homeland because of race, religion, political affiliation. They're coming here for a better life, and I get that. But that's not asylum. We're enforcing laws, and the great success we're having proves you enforce the law, you can secure the border. You enforce the law, you can make this country safe again. That's what we're doing.
Are there any more military?
All right, so that's what Tom Homan had to say, as always, bringing the historical facts and context. Now, I want to give you guys the real thought exercise that's behind this particular issue. Is this federal judge wrong for issuing this ruling? He's not. He's following exactly the law that Congress wrote. But here is the problem. President Trump has already went to the Supreme Court back in 2018 for something that is similar. Can President Trump deny people entry into our country, especially people who are seeking asylum? According to the Supreme Court, the president can absolutely do that. However, in their ruling, they never said anything about people who were already in our country. And that right there is why this is going to go to the Supreme Court. And that's exactly what they're going to have to rule on and clarify on whether or not he has the authority to do so. He clearly has the authority to block people from entering the country. But if they're already in the country, can he block them from claiming asylum? That is a good question and a great thought exercise for the Supreme Court. So we will see in time.
I think this is exactly the kind of decision that the Supreme Court just last week was trying to stop. District judges pushing an agenda challenging President Trump on fundamental choices about war and national security that are up to the president and Congress. We could have a debate about whether the migrant flows constituted an invasion or not, but I can tell you which branch of government is not supposed to decide that, and that's the judiciary. President Trump can make the choice to declare an invasion and send troops to the border. If there's an institution that's going to stop him or agree with him, it's up to Congress, which is passing a budget bill right now. And if they don't like what President Trump's doing, they could defund his activities at the border. Instead, they're adding more money to border control and border enforcement.
And this actually comes as President Trump made an announcement on Truth Social updating the country on June border statistics. He says this: "Congratulations, America. The June border statistics are in. And once again, they are the lowest recorded numbers in United States history. The U.S. Border Patrol reported 0 releases of illegal aliens into our country. In addition, Customs and Border Protection only had 25,243 nationwide encounters throughout the entire month, which is absolutely staggering considering the Biden administration was encountering tens of thousands of people every single day. America's borders are safe and secure, and the entire world knows it. All we need to do is keep it that way," which is exactly why Republicans need to pass the one big, beautiful bill. We still have radical left judges trying to open the border and defy the Supreme Court, which is why Republicans must be smart, strong, and never let these crazy judges turn us into a third world country. And now we're going to move to our next story, which is about the one big, beautiful bill. The House did pass with 220 votes from Republicans, the vote that was required to actually vote on this bill. That just happened moments ago. So we're going to see maybe tonight or early tomorrow morning where they will actually vote on the bill. People say it's not going to pass the first time around, but we'll see what happens. At any rate, let's hear a couple more updates, particularly about the child tax credit, because that's been a big question as well. Take a look.
So, Lydia, the bill actually expands the child tax credit. So what impact could that have?
To American families everywhere, which is part of the reason why the House Ways and Means Committee estimates this bill could deliver as much as $10,900 in additional take-home income pay for the typical family. It would block a tax hike by making the 2017 tax cuts permanent and deliver additional tax cuts, such as the child tax credit that you just mentioned, making it permanent and raising it from $2,000 per child to $2,200 per child. The bill also creates a Trump investment account for kids. Children born between this year, 2025, and 2028 would get a $1,000 government contribution, and families can add up to $5,000 also. The bill additionally expands 529 education savings accounts to allow more flexibility for spending on kindergarten through high school expenses. The bill enhances the adoption tax credit, too. It would partially be refundable up to $5,000 so more people can grow their families through adoption. And then finally, it locks in a standard deduction for families, which was nearly doubled by Trump in 2017, and it increases it to $31,500. And of course, these are all features in addition to the hallmarks like no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and additionally, tax relief for seniors. So a lot baked in here, Aisha.
So according to Democrats, President Trump is trying to give tax breaks to billionaires. But everywhere you look in this bill, nothing points to that. Now, here is an example, and they just said it. The standard deduction for families is increasing from $27,000 to $31,000. What does a standard deduction for families really mean? It means that if you are a family and you're filing jointly, you are already going to be able to claim a $31,000 deduction on your taxes. That's huge. And that puts more money technically in your pocket. Now, I'm not a CPA and I'm not a tax attorney. I'm just telling you what it says. So every time they come out and they say that this is about giving tax breaks to billionaires, I'm just not seeing it, which takes me to this next clip, which is this heated exchange between Representative Tim Burchard and a CNN host, because we know mainstream media, they act like they don't read the bill. They don't even show their audience the text that's in the bill. They just say, this is what so-and-so said. Well, Tim Burchard, he wasn't having it. Take a look.
Well, the CBO, which you put so much trust in for years and years, that you passed a resolution wanting estimates read before bills, is very clear about how many people are going to be kicked off of health care until you were against the CBO.
No, ma'am. You listen. If you want to do the editorial, just go ahead, and you don't need me on here. But the
These
CBO,
are facts, sir. I don't have to editorialize.
Scores. I would like to see what the economic output of every bill. You as a taxpayer should want that too. And the CBO is the only organization we have. If I could allow a private accounting firm to do it, I would much rather that happen. But the reality is it would have to be the CBO. And what do you have against knowing how much each bill is spent? Why does the media oppose to that? Why do you all on the left always fight every chance at America knowing what's going on? The problem y'all have with this bill, ma'am, is that it gets government out of our way and lets Americans make some decisions, and maybe hardworking Americans would have a better choice and a better shot at life in this country without you all just telling us how bad things are going and trying to construct, and as you're doing with me, trying to dictate what I've said. And the reality is the CBO is a partisan organization, and the reality is America has a right to know how much we're spending on every piece of legislation. I cannot believe you as a member of the media would not want open records, and that is exactly what that bill would do.
Sir, we have reported on what is in this bill. We do that time and again.
Ma'am, you all are trying to scare, are you talking about the big beautiful bill? You all just try to scare America by telling millions of people are going to be cut off this thing. You're talking about the people that are on it illegally, that are gaming the system, and that is. And
no, we're not. The CBO.
The
CBO is very clear.
The bill does not. It does not do anything of what you've said, and all you've done is scare America, and you're not doing a service to this country, ma'am.
This is something that Tim Burchard has been doing time and time again, definitely recently, because CNN continues to allow him to come on, which is funny to me. But secondly, he always ends up confronting them because we know they're not in the business of telling the truth. They're not even in the business of showing you the bill, right? They're in the business of saying, we believe this is what's wrong with the bill according to so-and-so. And that's how they get away with saying what they're saying, because technically they're not saying it. What they're saying is someone else is saying it. And I know I said the word saying like 100 times here, but I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. So that is the update. They did pass it. We'll see if an official vote happens tomorrow. Now, let's go to this other story that's been circling around, and I really find it annoying, and that's Mr. Mamdani, right? This is the individual who won the Democrat primary to run in the election for New York City mayor, and he's continuing to get attention because President Trump has already ripped him a few times.
What did you make of the New York Democrat primary? Mamdani.
I think it's very bad for New York. I don't know that he's going to get in. It's inconceivable that but he's a communist, and he's a pure communist. Let's say this. If he does get in, I'm going to be president, and he's going to have to do the right thing.
He said he's going to fight ICE. He's not going to allow ICE to...
He'll be very unsuccessful.
And he said if Benjamin Netanyahu comes to New York, he's going to have him arrested.
Whoever's mayor of New York is going to have to behave themselves, or the federal government is coming down very tough on them financially.
And this is how most people have been responding to the president's comments, like Andrew Cuomo. President Trump's threats to arrest Assemblyman Mamdani, while predictable, are insulting to the American principles of justice and further New Yorkers' resentment of his heavy-handed tactics and the compliance and complicity of his supplicants. It should be universally condemned. And what's interesting about this is President Trump did not say explicitly that he's seeking to arrest this individual by the name of Mamdani. He's saying if Mamdani gets out of hand and starts to obstruct ICE officials from doing their job that Congress has allowed them to do according to the laws, then yeah, he could be arrested and detained, just like the mayor out of Newark, New Jersey. I mean, let's just be real here. Now, here is how CNN is spinning the reaction. Take a listen.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with what Kristen said here 100%. I mean, the reality is this is drawing even more attention to Mamdani. This is drawing even more attention to his platform. I think it's unifying people who maybe don't agree with some of the more left-leaning proposals that he has. You know, we've seen in the immediate aftermath of the election, you know, more centrist Democrats kind of struggling with, you know, some of the perception around what he said before about Israel, or some concerns about, you know, wanting to do city-run grocery stores, and some, again, more of the left-leaning positions that he has. But when you have Donald Trump talking about deporting him, that sort of brings together a lot of people to say, wait a minute, I might not like some of the policy positions he has, but we're talking about something completely different.
But in a way, over time,
Well, it seems to me that CNN didn't learn anything from the election, because Kamala Harris got all the attention one could want, and it backfired on her. Let's just be honest about this. I don't see how he's going to become the mayor of New York City, but there is a chance that he can be. And it's not because I believe every single person in New York City is deranged, but there's a certain demographic that voted for him. And that was particularly Asian vote, and also high income earners who are white. So the black vote was not there for him. Low income voters was not there for him. And so I believe that's going to be an issue when the election actually rolls around, especially if Eric Adams is still in the fight. But more importantly, his policies are out of this world. I just don't see how that's going to work for New York City. But if you are from New York and you listen to my show, you give me your thoughts about it. Now, here's what Fox News also had to say. Take a listen.
This is a 911 moment for the Democratic Party in the sense that he's an anti-Semitic socialist. I think you have to throw both of those things at him, because he has really not disavowed the global intifada. He has not really disavowed his comments that we should seize the means of production. He is perhaps the most extreme major candidate ever to win such a major office. And the system itself, the primary system, has been hijacked. There normally would have been a runoff, which would have then exposed his views rather than his smiling through the primaries. But I think that it's absolutely essential here that this not become Mamdani versus Trump. That's his strategy. If he can get rid of the idea that there are two other candidates or maybe one other candidate opposing him and he's running against Trump, well, you know, he'll win that one.
I mean, the bottom line here on this story is Mamdani represents exactly what people rejected in the last election between President Trump and Kamala Harris. So if New York City elects him, they'll have to deal with the consequences, just like what happened in California. We allowed Gavin Newsom to become the governor. Now, some people believe, obviously, the elections in California is corrupt, no question. And that's just my own personal opinion about it. But let me hear your opinion about all these stories in the comments section below. I give you the update on the one big, beautiful bill. We see what's happening with Mr. Mamdani being called a communist. And it's going to be Armageddon if they vote him in as mayor. But more importantly, what we started off in this video with, another federal judge blocking President Trump from doing what he was elected to do, and he has the authority to do. So give me your thoughts and more in the comment section below. Now, earlier today, CBS has suffered humiliation because they ended up agreeing to a settlement with President Trump in the amount of $16 million Remember, this has led to the resignation of the CEO and president of CBS News and the 60 Minutes executive producer. So if you missed out on that update, more stories from earlier today, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.